It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular school board meeting of the Tri-State United School Board. Tonight is October 9th, 2017, and we're located at the TCU High School Band Room. That's 6. Roll call finds all present except for Kevin Huber is absent. And before I go no further, we have 2 additions to the agenda. Under administrative report, we're going to add the high school student council. We have a representation from the high school student council, so we're going to add that report there. And then also on the consent agenda, it would be under personnel, number 3, 3C, the special services office coordinator / MARS coordinator would be in addition to the agenda this evening. So next we have our administrative report.
Good evening, board members. Just a few highlights from our October board report from our administrators of all buildings and departments. I'll hit a few of the highlights, but again, as I always say, there's deep, great information in here which I really encourage our board and all of our community members to read. Pretty much tells you everything that's happening in our district as far as connected into our 4 strategic directions. From TCU Montgomery, some of the pieces I would like to highlight is within the Aligning Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. Their reading and math intervention groups for grades 7 and 8 have been started and moving along. I know as Mrs. Dwyer shared with me before, they're also piloting a program of some work habit supports, which they learned about from another district last year, and so they're piloting that for the first semester and going to be moving that into our AVID for the second semester, so it's exciting to see that too. Within our business office, they're still recovering from the audit, which I know kept them all very, very busy. We not only had Jean being new in this position, but we also had we had a new team here this year from our auditors, and it was a really solid team who had a lot of experience, whereas last year we had a new team who was less experienced. So this team was really trying to collect a lot of things and really did a great job. We also, within community education, some communications pieces. Hopefully you've been able to take a peek at our Tri-City United website. Ms. Vogel has added an upcoming events banner that'll be each week. She's also been working with some of our local newspaper to see if they'd be willing to run some of those upcoming events in their newspapers, as well as with some of our local cable companies to have those going. So we're communicating when events are happening. Some other pieces, if you recall, a year ago, we'd received a Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation grant within our early childhood for some parent ed programming, and that's happening here now this fall. The parent education, it's a 3-part series. It started at TCU Lonsdale in September and is going to be extending into TCU Montgomery and TCU La Center in the next 2 months. So there'll be some great programming for our early childhood families. Community education has also been reaching out and connecting with an aging communities conversation that's going to take place here in Montgomery in the next few weeks. As well, we were also contacted by Region 9, I believe it was, to see if we would be willing as a school district or one of our communities to host a forum on race for some discussions and dialogue on equity within our region, not just our school district. So we're going to be exploring that possibility to occur. Within Tri-City United La Center, some pieces to hit again similar within TCU Montgomery with moving into RTI within math. They're going to be adding that into all grades K through 8, and from our last work session as board members, you know, some of the things we talked about was that depth of knowledge. So sharing some of the pieces that they're working on within common assessments and the depth of knowledge and rigor, really raising those to higher levels. Within TCU Lonsdale, some aspects to hit upon. Wanted to kind of share hitting a different strategic direction within raise the capacity for engagement. TCU Lonsdale conducted or held a community tour, and so they had their first one for the year, and they had several families attend, and exciting to hear that piece. And I know that TCU La Center also was offering up some tours on homecoming day, and I know all of our sites are always open to tours there as well. At our high school, our Titan Time, as you know, started last year, and we're kicking that off here now into October. And then some pieces here on ACT, and Mr. Fitter is going to be sharing the recommendation on the ACT testing, which, as you recall, again, as a board, we've discussed at the work session on, you know, the changes in ACT funding and needing to make some decisions about equity and everything for access to the ACT test for all students. So that'll be an action item tonight as well. Within our food service, it's important to recognize that October is Farm to School Month, and so we're going to be having a lot of our local favorites on the menus at each of our sites. And Amy does just a fabulous job really reaching out to our communities and partnering to highlight, the apples and some of the differing meats and vegetables and everything like that. So hopefully you've also been able to see some of the slideshow pieces she's put on our Facebook page to show some of the vegetables and fruits and offerings that are occurring there too. So lots of stuff. I only hit a highlight from each, but again, please take time to read through. It really helps us stay on track with our 4 strategic directions and the actions happening.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, next, if you want to come up.
We're very fortunate to have Shane here with us tonight, and he's going to be sharing some updates, not just of student council, but also of our high school. So welcome, Shane. We're really glad you're here.
All right, so I'm Shane Schreiber. I'm a senior this year, and I'm a part of a student council and cross country. I think the start of the year has gone out pretty well. The homecoming went out pretty well as well. The dance was a good turnout, I think, this year. Student council helped out with the Friday. The last 2 hours of the day we had like a free period, and we got to do all this fun stuff, which I thought was pretty fun. And that Saturday we were supposed to do a ditch cleanup, but from all the rain and all that, we're rescheduling it to some other time that's unknown yet. Student council is also going to hold a blood drive October 27th, and our goal is 87 pints of blood, but I'm sure we can achieve that and get over that because our school seems to really like the blood donations. So far I think it's been a pretty great year. Nothing bad has seemed to happen so far.
Love your honesty, Shane.
Student council and all these other activities seem to be doing really good. We have a lot of lively new freshmen, and they seem like good leaders, and the rest of us seem like good leaders, and cross country is doing well, football's doing well, and volleyball's, they're all doing well, and excited for the school year, and hopefully it'll be good. That's all I pretty much had to say, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank
You
you.
know, and Shane, we certainly hope that you might be willing to do this again, because it's always wonderful to have consistent reporters, because you'll know what was said last time, and it'll get easier each time.
Yeah.
And they are pretty nice people, and won't do any kind of stump the student game show on you or anything, okay?
All right.
Thanks so much. Now, you said you have musical rehearsal as
Yes,
well?
yes I do.
And so you're involved with that too, huh?
Yep, it's my first year for musical and student council, so I'm new to all of this, but the musical is going pretty well too. We're doing The Sound of Music, so a lot of people know The Sound of Music, I guess. It's pretty big. I've never seen it myself. I probably should go watch that. I have a very small part, Von Schreiber, which is actually pretty cool because my last name is Schreiber. It's like 6 lines, but happy for anything. Bunch of great kids for the play too. They're all pretty bright and funny, and we just have a great time. It's pretty cool, and that's going well. I think, and I should probably know this. This is bad that I don't, but I think the musical is supposed to be the end of November.
It's like usually the middle of it.
Mid-November.
Yeah.
So 17th, 18th.
There you go.
It's
You were close.
yeah.
Got your back.
So if you guys want to go see that, it's supposed to be really great. We have a great cast, and I think it'll be pretty awesome. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wonderful.
Excellent report, Shane. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
You did a
Thank
great job.
Good luck with the play,
Thank you.
or the musical, I should say.
You guys have a great day.
Thanks, you
Yes,
too.
you too.
All right, so with that, I will seek to approve the agenda with the noted changes. I'll make a motion. All right, motion by Ashley Bercevo, second by Krista Gettle to approve the agenda with noted changes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion has passed 6-0. Next, we'll move on to our consent agenda. First is the approval of the minutes of our September 11th, 2017 regular school board meeting. Under personnel, we have new hires. We have Don Marcussen, drivers at Instructor. Amanda Retica, long-term sub, 4th grade in Montgomery. Deb Maxa, assistant cook in Lonsdale. Janice Flanary? I don't know.
Flanary, I think.
Flanary, okay. School Readiness Paraprofessional Lee Center. Greg Feddema, a B Squad boys basketball coach. Austin Pinke, a C Squad boys basketball coach. Change in hours. Clay Sauter, assistant cook in Montgomery, and Mary Merlo, paraprofessional in Lee Center. Contracts, we have 3. TCU Pool Manager, a Brailist, and a Special Services Office Coordinator and Mars Coordinator. Employment ending, Erica Marcussen, Special Education Paraprofessional in Lonsdale. Lisa Blaschko, Cook's Helper in Lonsdale. Julie Scott, Homebound Teacher. Heather Horneman, High School Special Education Paraprofessional. John Rinda, the C Squad Boys Basketball Coach. Ellen Nelson, English Language Arts Arts Teacher in the high school. Policies, first reading. 521, Student Disability Non-Discrimination. 602, Organization of School Calendar and School Day. 607, Organization of Grade Levels. And 903, Visitors to the School Building. Also, approval of the bills in the amount of $366,817.39. I will seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Dan Rudd, second by Dale Buss to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed, 6-0. Next, we'll move on to a Titan Pride Awards.
I'd ask Mr. Fitter to come forward and present our Titan Pride Award.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Chrysler. I'm not seeing my person, but I still want to recognize Angie Christian and Rasmussen College. On a challenging note, they discontinued their program, and what happened for us is that left all kinds of supplies, equipment, and flasks and beakers and kits, dissection kits, slides that Brent Christian rolled his truck up to the back of Rasmussen after Angie got approval from administration there, and they loaded up all these items and they brought those items here to TCU. Now our science department will be splitting things out with the 7th and 8th grade science program and our high school program. So I thought it was well fitting to recognize Angie's work. Angie called me and said, "Do we want this?" And I said, "Absolutely. It's very good stuff." And we'll be using that for our science program, 7-12. So Angie Christian and Rasmussen College on a Titan Pride Award. Thank you.
All right, up next is our open forum, and I believe there have not been any requests for this evening. Next, we'll move on to our informational items, and next will be Mr. Head. The project lead the way.
You can go to the table there if you prefer, or wherever you'd like, Mr. Head, as long as we have a microphone by you.
I think I'll stand.
Okay.
Is this mic up here?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. All right. So just a little bit of the opportunity that our students have through PLTW. This is our, I want to say, 5th year having PLTW in the district. We started it off just at the 9th grade level with that first year. And since then, we've expanded, and we are now K through 12. So all of our students have an opportunity. Actually, I think all of our students are in PLTW all of the years K through 8. And then in 9th grade, kind of forward, they have the option of whether or not they want to. One of the benefits of the high school level PLTW is students can actually get college credit for it as well. I think it's the only program in the high school where they can get college credit from St. Cloud University at that 9th grade level. So able to kind of start them getting those credits as early as possible. Some of the changes that we've had since going to K through 12, the students have come in with more and more background knowledge, which is fantastic for me. It makes my job a lot easier when they come in knowing stuff. And it's been amazing to see what they're able to accomplish with this background knowledge. This is the first year I've had students actually coming to me with knowledge in building and programming. And some of the challenges I'm throwing at them aren't as challenging as it used to be, which is always a very good problem to see with our students. We've kind of expanded as well at the high school level. We now have design, introduction to design, where students work on getting thoughts from paper, or from their head, to paper, to computers, and into their hands. We purchased a new 3D printer this, I want to say, summer, so students can design things on the computers and they can prototype them in the classroom. As you guys are going to find out a little later in the board meeting tonight, we've also worked with the Sewer Foundry and Dotson Foundry in Mankato, and they are purchasing us a Foundry in a Box kit. Okay, so students will actually be able to melt down metals and use them to cast different things. So they can take the 3D printing of the plastic models they made, stick it into stand, pour the iron or tin or whatever it is they're working with into it, and be able to create a metal casting with whatever they want. So that's kind of where our program's moving. We're also working with R&L Woodcraft this year in Lonsdale. They want us to have our students actually design furniture for the school, and they've mentioned that if we have students go around and design something, that they will actually build it for us as well. So during Titan Time, which was talked about earlier, we're starting to meet and see what kind of things the students want to create. So that's kind of where at the moment, always trying to push forward, and it's great seeing the kind of program shift and that create opportunities as well. Other things that we have is the Robotics Club has been expanding a lot. We started 4 years ago and we had 50 students and we made 1 robot. This year, district-wide, we are making 10 robots for the competitions. We have 6 at the high school and 2 at each middle school, or at least that is the hope currently. We'll be having a scrimmage later this year. And I actually brought in our president of robotics, Xavier Best, to kind of talk about what the competition is this year and show what he's been able to make so far in the limited amount of time we've had since the beginning of the year. So that.
Well, for this year, our competition is in the zone, which is
You have important things to say, and we want to make sure everyone can hear them. Xavier also represented the Robotics Club with our K-Check TCU radio show and did a fabulous job sharing about robotics and all the things that they're doing. Mr. Head, you'd be very proud of how you represented the program.
well. So for this year, our competition is called In the Zone, and it's basically we have to make a robot that's able to pick like a cone up and put it either on here or on here, and then you can pick this one up and move it into different zones for different scoring points. The robot has to be within like 18 inches. There's only so many motors, so there's like restrictions on what you can do. And then like this alone is like 3-4 pounds, so that's actually a struggle to lift with robots and like what we're given. So you have to make like some type of gear train or like use pneumatics to pump it up. And we decided to go on the pneumatics route, so like so far what we've had this year was like something like this, oil the button, move up and down. And we just got these like last week, so still sort of in the testing phase about it. Haven't like completely understood it, but we have like 4 months left for our season, so we should be good and be able to do decent world competitions with them.
One thing that he didn't mention is basically this robot didn't exist earlier today. I think he's built most of it since before his time. As he said, the pneumatics came in pretty late last week, so he's been learning how to program them and how to build them in. So still have a lot to work to do, but we got a good chunk actually done pretty quickly today.
Yeah.
So that's a robotics program. Thank you, Xavier. And that's some of the opportunities our students have through PLTW robotics at TCU.
When is the first competition that you have?
Yep, we're going to be doing,
November 19th.
we're going to be having a district-wide scrimmage on November 8th. Competitions are pretty small, so we actually cannot bring all 10 of our teams, or we'd be taking up about a fourth of the tournament, which isn't the wisest thing to do. So we'll be having a scrimmage with our 10 students to find out the 6 that we're going to be bringing on November 8th. And then 2 weeks later, they're going to the first competition. Any other questions?
So Xavier, were you on one of the teams that made it to state last year?
Yeah.
And what are some of the things you learned from participating and seeing that level of competition?
That Probably working a lot harder, putting more time into it than we actually did, because we procrastinated a lot, and we actually ended up building a robot in like a week. So if you would have spent a lot more time, we would have done a lot better and kind of else for the competition.
Well, that's part of learning too, isn't it?
That's a life lesson.
Any other questions from the board?
What does this sort of class or competition prepare you for in the future? So what are you thinking of doing past high school, and how does this help with that? If there's any connection, if you just enjoy doing it.
Well, if you wanted to be like a mechanical engineer or something that involves that type of engineering that you learn here, so you get experience in like programming or building and doing that type of thing or designing, and it'll help with strengthening your problem solving skills and like critical thinking and do things like that.
How often do we see you rebuild your robot every competition?
It's probably at least like 3 times.
It takes real perseverance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you. Good luck on your season. Mr. Head, thank you for all the leadership you've provided within this area. I don't know that any of us could have really predicted how far we would come in this district with Project Lead the Way and just science inquiry-based, project-based learning. I mean, it really has permeated many other content areas and disciplines. So thank you. It's really made a difference.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I know.
All right, next up is our October 23rd work session.
This is just as a reminder to everyone that back when we decided to continue with the listening sessions, we made the move to have the listening sessions on work session meetings rather than regular board meetings. So our next listening session will be on Monday, October 23rd at TCU Lonsdale. At 6 o'clock, we will have our work session. And then following that, the listening session will be at 7 o'clock. I've included that in the weekly newspaper. We have it on our website. We'll put some postings out on Facebook after this meeting so that people don't get confused which meeting we're talking about, and hopefully be able to have a good turnout. You know, interestingly, from our last listening session that we conducted here in April, even though it wasn't a large turnout, there's really been some incredible things that have come from that with Julie Buffano, and you know, she was sharing about her dream to start a restaurant. Well, now she's working on that and is been able to access some of our equipment from the auction that went on, and is full steam ahead and truly does plan to be able and hope to be able to partner with us for some of our students to work there as kind of a hospitality food service type of opportunities. Again, another option for career pathways for our students to be exploring. So you never know what's going to come out of every conversation.
All right, next we have Mr. Fitter here for our ACT testing for our juniors.
Good evening again, Board. Dr. Breisler.
Thank you.
Executive summary in a proposal that we end up using district general fund dollars to cover the cost for all juniors to take the ACT test this spring. As many of you probably know, September 8th was our practice test. We went over to the Legion once again. We pay a fee to use the Legion, and it works out well for what we're doing. I appreciate Palmer Bus, always I'm donating that service, and that's also very nice of them to do. The actual test is April 3rd. The state has bumped it up a couple weeks from past years. I don't know the answer why, but that makes even more crunch time as we're looking for that date. In speaking with the school counselors, my fellow administrator, Mr. Eppen, we would recommend that we use the general fund dollars to cover for all juniors. I've done a cost sheet for you there. The ACT alone is $46 per student. That's a $17-18 cost. It was the same as that cost last year. If we did the ACT plus writing, it jumps up to the low 60s. From what the research that we've done, frankly, colleges do not put a lot of time and effort into the writing test. They're looking at the 4 sub-tests, which is English, mathematics, reading, and science. So it'd be our recommendation that we just take care of the ACT with no writing this year. As of today, we've got 147 juniors, but that also includes any international students. I think we have 3 or 4 that are in the junior class as international students. Plus, we have some New Prague High School juniors that come over each day for first hour American Sign Language. So, if I take that out, a rough guesstimate is 140, which will most likely be an overestimation, because on that April 3rd day, we also have anywhere between 5 to 10 juniors that decide to not come to school that day because the ACT is not a required test. 14-15, the state required it of all juniors. The following year, 15-16, plus the state paid for it in 14-15 for all juniors. 15-16, if you remember the Pearson settlement, the millions of dollars that Pearson had to give to the state to do all the MCA testing snafus with the technology. The legislature, in turn, then turned that money into paying for all the juniors to take it once again. Last year, 16-17, the state paid for it. This year, the state has decided they would only pay for those on free and reduced, and any student who says, Mr. Fitter, Mr. Eppen, I can't afford to pay for the test, and in that turn, then the school district has to pick it up for that student. Meaning there's no denial if a kid wants to take it. The state is expecting kids to just pay for it or parents to pay for it. So not quite sure how many students would come forward and actually say I can't afford to pay for it, but I would recommend that we go one step better and cover it all for everybody, and then we don't even have to worry about which kid is free and reduced, which will still get reimbursed for those kids. So we'll still see dollars coming back. Last year we had 41 sophomores who had filled out the forms for free and reduced. I don't currently know what our juniors is. I think the reporting date is the 15th?
Yes, that's when it just transfers over.
Okay, so I don't have those stats yet, being today is the 9th. Generally speaking, though, that number stays pretty consistent through the school years. I did the math there, so if I take 140 times 46, we're at 6440. Free and reduced would reduce that by 1886. So what I foresee, a rough guesstimate is $4,554 to cover all of our juniors to take this test. Just a side note, on September 20th, we had our sophomores take our pre-ACT 10 timing study, which ACT asked us if we'd be willing to do that. This is one of those tests that they in turn then, for every scoreable test, they send us $10. So if we had roughly 140 sophomores take it, we're looking at about 1,400 coming back. And that's if they can score the kids' test. If they marked all C for answers, they'll throw that out, and that'll be $10 we won't see. But, so we've got those dollars coming back, and I would like to recommend that last year, for the first time ever, we had an outside ACT test prep vendor that Community Ed hired, and Mark and I have already talked. We'd like to see that offered to all juniors, so we can give every student the best possible prep and readiness before taking the actual ACT test. That would be done during the school day. Still working out details. As you know, we don't have a fine arts center here to do a presentation like that to all juniors. So I've got to figure out, is it a time I can shut the Commons down? Do we look at the Legion, doing something there? Is there a way for that vendor to come in and do presentations in 6 classrooms? So that's one of our challenging pieces, being how full we are and not really having a great spot for that. But if that's something we want to do, we'll get that figured out, not a problem. So we would use that $1,400, plus I've got the TCU High School Special Projects account, past target dollars, those types of dollars that are not taxpayer funds. So I am proposing and recommending that I will find a way to pay for the prep sessions if we can count on TCU School District to cover with general funds for all to take the ACT test. That is the most equitable, most fair, and gives the opportunity every one of our juniors that wants to go forward with that. Thank you for considering.
Any question from the board for Mr. Fitter? No? I know that our TCU High School site team has really embraced in the ACT as a means for being able to demonstrate growth across the way, and everyone really feeling a part of that, which I think is important and brings ownership across the way. Even as you consider, yes, obviously science is one of the areas within the ACT, but some of those problem-solving skills that we're learning through there reach farther into, say, business courses and everything else as well. And as we went through some of our ACT results, we know that when you have more students, it does have some differentials in our results. And interestingly, our very first year when we had all students and the state paid for all of the students, we had some of our highest ACT results as TCU and as previous Montgomery, Lonsdale, and La Centre school districts. So there is some aspect to when, then at that year, it was a requirement for graduation, and students really took it seriously. And so in this case, hopefully that even though there is a bit of a choice yet, that students will take it very seriously doing the preparation. I know another board member had been approached by community members wondering if we do an ACT prep. I'd referenced that last year we had offered it, but that it was a choice at that point, and this year being if we do it during the school day, again, would be more of that equitable and access piece.
Just to follow up on Dr. Price, for last year we had 24 students take the ACT test prep. That was on April 1st. The actual test was on April 19th. Of those 24 students, 20 of them saw an increase from their fall practice test score. That, granted, they self-correct, and I go through as best I can to find errors, but 20 out of the 24 scored at least 1 point higher on the composite in the spring test, with one student gaining by 4 composite points. Whereas the other students that didn't take the test, I'm not going to share the stats, but I'll just say that not very positive. So if we can offer this to all juniors, I think the research will show that we'll have a very good number that'll show an increase on the actual test come April 3rd.
If we have seniors that want to take this,
Only, which, the actual test or the prep session?
both.
The actual test, you must be a junior by Mars status. That is the day that the state of Minnesota offers it to juniors only. So we cannot let any senior test that day. Seniors have to take the national tests, which are Saturdays, I want to say 6 or 7 times during the school year.
Okay.
Because the state will only pay for 1 test per student. And so this is usually the first time any student will take the ACT, 99% of them. And so the state will cover that. That has been the state's piece back when they required it up until this year. But they still will only pay for 1 attempt, and it's the first attempt. So seniors can still take the ACT. There's the national test dates. That's a great question on the prep session, because I didn't even think about that. So thank you,
You're
Board Member
welcome.
Barker. I will have to figure that out. Mark and I will be speaking tomorrow at our leadership team meeting as to what he's found out from the vendor and what they can do. We've got roughly 300 juniors, 280 juniors and seniors. So trying to find a space where I could do something like that, the biggest challenge, because they have to be able to write. What the prep session does is they actually give them anywhere from 15 to 22 past ACT test questions from each of the subtests. So they'll take the English subtest first. Every student will do their 15 to 22 questions, and then they'll give a video clip on test-taking strategies for that specific sub-test. And then they talk about it. So if you did this, this is why you want to go this route. This is why you want to take time to actually cross off these answers, because those don't make sense. So they teach them test-taking strategies for the ACT specific test. And then they do the math test, same thing. And then the reading, and then the science test. So it's about a 4.5-hour test prep session. And so that's another, one of the challenges, you know, we have lunch at 11 o'clock, so we'd have to figure out, we'd probably have to take a lunch break and feed all the students. My biggest challenge is finding a place to serve that. I'm hoping Mark tells me tomorrow that the vendor says, yeah, we can beam it into 6, 7 classrooms, we can do it in groups of 30, but I don't know that yet.
He's not letting on to the answer right
No,
now,
he's
just
not.
so you know.
He's
so
not.
We
I
won't,
have some info, but I need to talk to the gentleman again. But I have some.
Attaboy.
It would be nice if we could offer it for some of the seniors who may want to or could have benefited, retake, so
Yep.
they could benefit from the prep test.
I will investigate.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Did you say how much the writing portion costs? Did I miss that?
With the writing, I
Or
think it's
just the
6
writing portion alone?
You cannot take it alone.
Oh, you can't?
Yep.
But I'm saying if the school would pay for the ACT with no writing and the student on the option to take the writing too?
Could they pay the difference?
Yeah, can they pay the difference or are they just can't do it then?
That's another good question. I will find that answer out.
Thanks.
Because you can just take the writing portion of the test at another testing facility site.
I don't,
That's what it
I
is.
don't
No,
think you can.
no, you
Oh,
can't.
it's part of the ACT testing, but it's like, it's a different name for it, but, because.
I think the total ACT plus writing is 6250.
Yep. I have never seen it broken down by just the writing, which I don't think you can take just the writing. I think it's all one big test. I could be wrong.
According to
It's been-
Google,
You can, I think you can.
it says you cannot, the writing test cannot be taken without first taking all 4 multiple choice tests in the same session.
In the same
But it's a
session.
different form of the
That's coming
ACT
from
testing. If
writing
they didn't
test,
score high
not
enough on their
ACT.
ACT score, and say, they have to take a writing portion of that in order to, if they went into college. I know, it's confusing and all that. It's probably something completely different, so I'll just let it go.
Get some good questions, though.
Thank you.
You didn't stump the student, but we can stump others, right? Thank you, Mr. Fitter. Appreciate your
Thank you.
your work on that. And good ideas, though, things that, bring further considerations.
Next, we move on to our enrollment.
This board, though, just to make you aware, this was the information item. We do have an action item on funding for the ACT test later on in the meeting. So just so that we realize we're moving into an action item later on. All right. As you know, we do our monthly enrollment reports, and I know that in the last month I shared with you that we thought we had everything cleaned as far as move-ins, moves-out, partial students, meaning that, as you heard from Mr. Fitter, having some students come for like ASL, those students do count towards our average Davidly membership, but we do not count them in here. So doing those cleanouts always becomes really important to do. As a whole, within our total, you see that within those cleanups, we've had a little bit of a drop, but that is right on where we were a year ago at 1870. We've been at 1872 a year ago, which holds us very steady, 1878, 1879. Now, the piece, though, to realize is that from where we started, our first year as TCU, we were at 1756. So as an entire district, we have held very steady in being above in growth and enrollment. And we look at specific sites. For example, you can see that our high school is at 567. And remembering that our capacity of our high school is 490. And if we consider just a year ago, in October, our high school was at 543. So from 543 a year ago to 567, we have seen the growth that was projected by all of the enrollment projection studies. And again, is well over our 490 capacity for that site. Any questions?
Next, we have committee updates.
I know I did not put in some of the notes, the committees that have taken place, but our transportation committee did meet this time. I had it a little early before, and then we knew that policy, I believe we'd shared that as an update before, but Dan, if you'd like to share a bit on transportation, and Dale, I don't think there would have been a Southwest Metro meeting on this one, or update from this, or was that from our
No, there
work
is.
session?
Yeah.
There is, excellent, good.
Yeah, so transportation met last Wednesday? Or Monday. We're just looking at changing some busing routes in Lee Center and Montgomery, especially for our younger students. You know, right now our policy is within 2 miles of the school, they have to walk to school, as long as you're within a hazardous roadway. So we're trying to look at some of that to make it easier for some of the younger children in our school to get busing and make it easier, I guess, and keep our kids.
Get a chance to take a look at the Versatran software, which has really been a long time getting all of that put together, and that was something that Palmer purchased on our behalf as part of the contract. They've done a walk study in there as well to be able to look at the areas for the walking. And one of the things that was really evident for us was at TCU Montgomery, the walking zone is pretty limited because of hazardous crossings. When you consider 26 and 5th Avenue and the railroad tracks, so it's really pretty compacted. And when we look at TCU Center, that walking zone is much further because the hazardous are the Cordova and Maple and then 99, and so you have quite a distance that goes to the north. So that's the areas we were trying to take a look at to see within current routes if we're able to at least take a block off or something, really looking at some load count. So it's going to take a while to know for sure what might be able to do. The other piece, though, that the software allows for us is to be able to take a look at our students who are between communities. And so if, in fact, we depending upon decisions about the bond, but if we needed to look at changes of boundaries in between schools, we'd have an idea of how many students that might impact. Now, of course, boundary changes are something that are very difficult to do. It's something you don't really want to do, but sometimes those are the difficult decisions that come with other decisions that may come down the road. So just letting you know some of the structures and systems that we have in place to help decisions if, in fact, that it comes to that point, which we hope it doesn't. Southwest Metro updates.
The new business person is now on board, and with matter of fact, that Tuesday was his very first day on the job. Excited to be there. The other one that they deal with, and they do their seniority list immediately as far as the school year goes. They make it part of their workshop, and so they were dealing with that. The big thing that is continuing being pushed out next Friday night is the gala, and that is a big fundraiser for Southwest Metro, and they give out 20 $1,000 scholarships to students who attend the, I thought I was going to be able to go this year, but I can't, so. The chairman of the board, John, really pushes that for all of us to be attending. It is a very nice event. Next Tuesday, we have our next board meeting. I'm part of the labor management. We'll be meeting with teachers as far as labor management goes. That is different than meet and confer, but it's one in which they bring up things. For example, at one of the sites last year, just the flow of traffic and where they were putting the garbage bins, was a problem, and so they worked with that, and that got actually, fixed within, a 2-day period of time. So it is a very good important meeting that starts usually at 3:30 and takes about an hour, and we start our meetings at 5:30. So other than that, I think, they have everybody in place. They struggle just like we do with those getting people, especially in the different areas for special ed, just, having people that have all of those qualifications. And like I said, a couple of things that they are doing that I really, think is they are working with TAs who are interested in getting their education and they're working to help move them forward in their college and paying for some of that college with the idea that, they will come to work for, Southwest Metro. And it's been very, very effective. They have one gal, I believe, who has finished, and they have 2 in the program right now, so.
Yes, I am the superintendent rep for Tuesdays, the next meeting, so.
Yep. For the 17th.
October is usually mine.
Oh, 17th, yep.
So. I don't think any of our other committees with finance had already reported. And the next finance committee is before the work session on the 23rd. And then I'll be setting up a facilities committee meeting in order for Mr. Mink to be able to share the summer projects that were completed and where we landed with all of those. So that'll be coming up probably in about the next 2 weeks. So watch your emails for those.
We did meet for QCOM.
Thank you. Yes.
You wanna?
We did. We did.
We did.
We had a great meeting.
Basically, we discussed how teacher workshop went and the presentations that were done during workshop. The speaker was Willow
Sweeney.
Yep.
Top 20.
Yep, there was great reports about that. And then just started planning again for the rest of the school year as far as the 2 early outs, which is tomorrow is the 1st. I don't know if you have anything else to add?
No. No, it was a really good meeting, and I think we're a lot farther ahead this year than we have been in years past with just scheduling out what's going to happen with those 2-hour early outs and really being more proactive.
We're getting better at it. All right. Next, we'll move on to our new business.
I'm sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was just
I'm
going to
jump on in here.
First up is our 2017-18 wellness budget.
Members of the board, this is an annual action item. We receive wellness dollars through the Blue Cross Blue Shield Co-op insurance contract in which we have, and so we receive a certain amount per insurance policy. These funds are meant to be used for our staff. They are not wellness dollars that we can use with students, so we do submit this to the Blue Cross Blue Shield for their approval, and it does need to have board action as well. One of the areas that's really been very popular by our staff and also then benefits our community ed is to be able to offset some of the community education courses, and so that staff can access them at a lowered cost or free even. And so it benefits them for getting some wellness areas right here in their backyard, and then also being able to benefit community ed to be able to offer even more programs and everything. So the water is also a really big piece, and then when we do have our full day, in particular staff development, being able to provide meals on site rather than having people go off on their own just makes it it really builds climate and culture and some togetherness so that it's not so rushed and hurried. And typically we've had Taher serve, but not always. But no matter what, the meals have been great, and people have really appreciated being able to have more of that collaboration time together. So this would be, so again, this is funds from there. These are not Tri-City United General Fund dollars. Any questions?
Superintendent Preisler, today, Mr. Phil Campbell posted about the lack of having a trainer at our ball game this Friday night. Some of you might have seen that. Can any of this money be used to, maybe put the word out where maybe a trainer from, if we do our contracted services from New Prague, could we access any of this money to look at, someone from the Mankato area, the Twin Cities area, to have someone on site for those type of things?
These wellness dollars would not be able to be used for us like hiring for something for students. It has to always come right back to our TCU staff. But being the other aspect, I believe, is as they're trying to hire for those positions is kind of similar to what we're dealing with finding teachers. It's it's tough to find them. And so I know this fall when they reported at the coaches meeting, shared that they had hoped they'd be able to have that position filled by now, but Mr. Mary, have you heard any further
They weren't going to be able to this fall, they're hoping
for the winter?
They were trying hard to, but they couldn't. So they've been filling in with substitutes. We've got a couple from Rochester. And where did you see posted?
That they would not have
I was on Facebook.
a person on site for
Friday night?
Friday. Dan, wasn't it Friday?
No, I think it was just, I think he was just saying kind of like looking for somebody, if you know of anybody, send them our way. I guess I didn't read the whole thing, but that's
So
the
we have a
caption I
trainer-
caught, but,
We are going to have a trainer here Friday night, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
and we were away last Friday, so we went to,
No, it was referring to this Friday.
oh, for this, oh,
It was
okay.
referring to this
Yeah, we'll
Friday.
have a trainer here this Friday.
Okay.
But yes, that is the difficulty, like Dr. Pricer says, is trying to find someone to fill that spot, because it was right just a couple weeks before the CGC fall season started. They tried to. We would have to look at a different company to fill if we're going to go outside of what Mayo is offering, or contracted with Mayo.
And that's still at that $5,600 that we pay for that, isn't it correct?
But we have been able to have a trainer here for all of our home events that we've typically needed to, correct?
Except for one football game,
Okay,
where we had the paramedics here the whole time.
okay.
So there's always somebody there who has training in first aid, paramedic training. So we tried hard to keep somebody there. And it's not a state high school league rule that we have to have one, but I mean, obviously we want to have one. At least somebody there.
Thank you, Jason.
All
Great
right.
questions.
I'll seek a motion to approve the 17-18 wellness budget.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Dale Buss, second by Michelle Bogart, to approve the 2017-18 wellness budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed 6-0. Next, we have approval of a $1,200 donation from Dotson Iron Casting in the Sewer Incorporated.
Yes, as Mr. Head had referenced earlier, this was a donation that has been graciously offered to us as a partnership between Dotson Iron Casting and LeSueur Incorporated. I remember one of our PLTW advisory meetings last year, the idea of a foundry in a box being brought up as a way to be able to bring some of the casting and that area of engineering into our classrooms rather than needing to field trip our students to the manufacturing companies, even though we have been able to do that as well. And so at that point, we began to go, I think that we could do some kind of donation with this. And we're very appreciative of their generosity in making this donation with the specifics that it be used in purchasing a foundry in a box to be used by our engineering courses and also our Project Lead the Way and exploring some more opportunities for our students. So it is with great appreciation that I would ask that we as a board accept this donation.
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
Motion by Danny Rudd, second by Ashley Receivable, to approve the $1,200 donation from Dotson Iron Casting and LeSueur Incorporated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed 6-0. Next, we have our updated substitute and temporary employee rate of pay.
Yes, this was one that was brought forward earlier for our school district, but then we also have some aspects that include within our, hold on a second, I want to make sure that community ed rates of pay, yes. But we are needing to bring this back as we look forward in preparing for the increased in minimum wage law by federal government effective January 1st. And so in order to be able to have things set up within region and everything within our payroll, we're bringing this forward here now in October rather than waiting till December and then it's into place in January. The minimum wage does increase to $9.65, and the only area that impacts was our temporary employee, which we did have at $9.50 before.
I'll seek a motion.
Second.
Motion by Chris DeGhetto, second by Michelle Bocart to approve the updated substitute and temporary employee rate of pay schedule. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed 6-0. Next, we have the updated community ed rate of pay.
This is for the same rationale because of the minimum wage being moved from $9.50 to $9.65. It does impact some of our community education pay rates. As you can tell, our lifeguard is one, that was at a $9.50. The high school students in kids zone is also affected by it. And whereas this is different than the temporary pay, because in this instance, because the minimum increase, we did increase by 15 cents some of the other lifeguarding positions, as well as other kids zone positions. And we are looking at this coming into effect on January 1. This would not be effective now, it'll be in effect January 1 when the federal law comes into place. And the only part on here that would be effective now would be a youth soccer coordinator, which that position has been posted, and we would look to hire that hopefully very soon.
I'll seek a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion by Ashley Recevo, second by Chris DeGhetto to approve the updated community ed rate of pay schedule. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed 6-0. Next, the updated activities and athletic pay schedule.
Upon approval before, Mr. Mary and I had visited, and also with some people who have served in a couple of these roles, and did some further study, in particular in the track starter position for regular meets in junior high, and did find that the initial recommendation had an amount that was significantly lower than anyone in the area when we were at a $75, and also finding that there's very few people who are actually truly trained to do that at the quality and effectiveness that we would need, and chances are those individuals were not going to be willing to do it at that rate and go somewhere else instead. And so in order to be more in line and comparative, we are bringing this back for 125 for these two. These are typically anywhere, up to 6 hours of a meet, so it is pretty close really when you consider on a full day kind of meet, because they go fairly late into the evening. Some comparatives, this still would have us slightly lower, but at least more in the ballpark. New Prague at 125 and 150, Belle Plaine at 175, LeSueur Henderson 125, 150, and Sibley East at 150. And so in order to be able to acquire in this position, which again, there's very few who have that, we are recommending to increase that to 125. All the rest stay exactly as previously board approved.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Dan Rudd, second by Dale Bust to approve the updated activities athletic pay schedule. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed 6-0. Next up, to approve the ACT test funding.
Members of the board, I am in agreement with Mr. Fitter in recommending that we do consider to use general fund dollars to be able to provide the ACT test for all of our juniors, so that it is about equity and access for all students, and also that he would then be considering to look at some dollars from the special projects, which would not be taxpayer funds, for the test prep. But our action here is only about ACT funding for the test. That would be your action item.
I'll make a motion.
One thing, are
Sorry.
we worried about maybe cutting them out of the writing aspect if we vote yes on this? Because I'm for paying for this. I just want to make sure that if a student wants that option to do the writing, we're not cutting them out.
Meaning cutting them out from taking the test at all?
The writing portion of the
If
test.
they want to add the writing to
Right.
it.
To it.
Because I'm all for doing it. I just want to make sure that they can pay the school back the difference, or however.
Have we taken the writing?
Let's take a
portion?
second, let's take a second on the motion. We'll further this discussion and we'll go from there, okay? And so if the motion is for the district to fund the ACT portion of the test without the writing, it's probably the cleaner way, and then we explore how we can get, if there is someone who wants the writing, how that reimbursement, or if the state would, we need to find out if the state will reimburse the full ACT plus writing in those situations. It may or it may not. There hasn't been that clarification from the state either.
You mean for the free and reduced?
Yes.
Right.
Yep. So we would need to do some exploring, but what we do need to do is to know if we are going to fund for all, so that, fund for all at least at an ACT level, so that Ms. Meyer is able, as our district assessment coordinator, to get a contract going with ACT and get us on a calendar. And that needs to be done before the end of October, correct?
By the 21st.
We could always revisit this. I mean, if we needed to, if we've got, find out anything more about the writing portion. Yeah, so.
So I do know from an ACT contract perspective, we have to have a final decision made by the 21st. So as the assessment coordinator, I can order the ACT without writing or with writing. I can't order the writing alone at this time.
So that probably answers their question.
Yeah.
Do anything?
So I don't know that that means that they can't ever take the writing, but in the way that our school district can order, those are our options for ordering. That's my understanding.
And Dan, if I'm understanding you correctly, you would, if said student wants to, no, I want to do it all. Not just those 4 portions, I want to do it all. Yeah,
Right.
I agree,
We're
I think
limiting
that's.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would need to know a
I
certain
get-
number of students, right, that wanted to take the writing before October 21st, so that I can order those.
So,
Separate.
There's no way we're gonna know that.
Right.
but I think so we'd have to fund up then. So we'd have to agree to pay a higher amount if we want to be all encompassing and equitable. And then if worst case, you would pay, if 40 people want to do with writing and however many don't, at least we have the funding at the highest amount so that it's covered, if that's what we're looking to fund.
She has to order the test by the
Right,
23rd.
so I'm saying, do we just order that whole amount for the higher amount, and then then later on just not, so you're gonna order the highest amount, so you're not cutting anybody out, and we're gonna have the funds for all of that, and then if they don't wanna take it, then is there a potential to say that?
Excuse me.
No, we can adjust the number of students who ultimately will take the test within a 6-week window prior to taking the ACT, but we can't adjust.
The
And they
Type
can't-
of test.
And they just can't
Right,
say,
so-
because it would hurt them if they
Right.
didn't do that, then if it was ordered, it would hurt them, because it would be like a zero.
Because I do know,
Right.
most of these kids will go out and they'll probably take the test again, considering what they do get on this test.
Yeah, it's
They
pretty
do
good.
have that option to retake it their senior year. So I don't think that we would be hurting any of the students at this point in time. We're getting them to be able to take the test at our high school or at the Legion, where that they would have the choice then to go out, if they wanted to take the writing test along with the ACT, to retake the ACT with the writing, they have that option to do it at that time. I think providing what we're providing right now is still providing them that option to take the test, because that's the major part of it. You know, the writing is an extra add-on.
Is that your recommendation then?
In the-
Yes.
The past years now that we've been doing from state funding on the ACT, they've not provided for the writing, correct?
They have.
The state has provided the writing.
They have paid for the full test.
Okay, and we've been offering the full,
We've taken the full test the first 3 years. Back when we discussed this late in the summertime, I was trying to find, I'm away, the full test would be $87.50 if we based it on 140 juniors. So, you know, I gave you the price of $45.54, and the $87.50, and then we could take off the free and a reduced number. I don't know, though, if the state is going to pay for the ACT plus writing for the free and reduced, or just the ACT. I don't know that answer. Molly, do you know that answer?
They have not distinguished that in their communications
But you,
so far, but I can absolutely.
you did say that the plus writing part is not used.
This past spring, what was the first time that ACT came up with a STEM score, which is the math and science tests combined. You've got to hit a certain number for a STEM score. And then they created an ELA score, which is the reading, English, and writing tests. So for the first time ever, that's what showed results. They didn't even share with us that they were doing that. I didn't learn that until I got the results in the summertime and went, well, this report looks different. And they said, yes, we've come up with these two new scores, which is fantastic. So that was a new addition, because ACT is trying to stay up to speed with modern technologies. They have a STEM score now, which is great. The writing test is not looked heavily by the colleges and the universities. It just isn't. They want to know what the kid's reading test is, the math test, the science, and the English test. They just do. So the colleges aren't spending a lot of time going, well, according to this student cannot write very well. Because they changed the whole writing test scoring this past spring too. They didn't tell us that, but they did. And I've learned that in the summertime too. So we're still learning what all this means, to be very honest. So I try to give the board the most minimum cost so all students could have the opportunity. Those that go to a two-year college, they may never use the ACT. A big piece is we base our high school goal on the ACT practice test and then our test results. We look at the 4 tests. We don't spend time on the writing. So we're in line with what the colleges and universities do as well.
Madam Chair and Superintendent Preisler, with this motion, do we have, I mean, right now, Mr. Fitter has put this 4554 as a possible number. Do we have to include a dollar amount in this motion?
No, we
Can
do
it
not.
just be stated that we will fund the paying for this test?
Correct. The
Yep.
piece that we would need, though, is to have enough direction so that when Molly is ordering the test, she knows if she's ordering a writing, the ACT with writing, or only the ACT.
Correct.
So you're correct,
Great.
Mr. Buss, we do not need to put a dollar amount to it. Just hopefully my math is well here with $87.50 would be the total
The
cost.
total
of
cost minus roughly
$62.50.
probably $2,000 if the state pays for the
Yep.
writing test for free and reduced, which we
I
don't
came
know.
Would be
with-
about 2,500 that they might cover, which would bring us to a 62.50, difference from 45.54.
Mhm.
Or if the state doesn't fund the writing part and only the regular, if I take your 1886 from 87.50, it could be 68.64.
Right.
So it gives you at least an idea of what kind of number we might be looking at. Again, this is all an estimate anyway, but I would say that our motion should indicate if we are willing to fund ACT plus writing, or if we're only willing to fund the ACT, in order to be able to provide us at administration enough guidance for how you as the governing body want us to move forward.
Dr. Buss, I just looking to see what colleges require the writing portion. In Minnesota, there are 3 colleges that require it, according to this, which was published in 2017 in February. Martin Luther College, University of Minnesota Morris, and University of Minnesota Rochester were the only 3. There were none in Iowa, none in South Dakota, none in Wisconsin that required it. Give you an idea of the colleges. North Dakota, nobody goes there, it's fine.
Still at a business meeting here.
Business meeting.
In the state of Minnesota, where the college is recommended, so the writing is weighted within their application. It's the Art Institute of Minnesota, Augsburg, Bethany, St. Ben's, Concordia, Gustavus, Hamlin, McNally, Smith College of Music, St. John's, St. Olaf, and the University of Minnesota.
And none in North Dakota.
So what would be the harm, or what, just thinking of options, so it does weight part of their ACT, so if, like, let's say they score lower on the 4 things, and they want to take the test to try to increase that in total.
Well, it is not part of the composite.
It's not comparative.
It's not part of the composite. So ACT came up with this new ELA score this summer,
And then it's, okay.
which colleges are not up to speed on that yet because it's brand new to the high schools. That we've never seen it before.
So that may change then once.
Yeah, that could change.
Okay, well,
And
then that kind of,
if I could ask Ms. Meyer to clarify something, I don't believe that we can order 30 ACT without writing and 60
No.
with
that's where I was
writing.
going. with-
I think it's all or none, so just so.
Okay.
And I think that's the route we need to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be all the same. We don't separate that. Then it'd be more of a mess, I think.
I feel like I'm going to stick with my motion to just pay for the ACT without writing at this point. And if there are students that, as a senior, want to go back and take it again, that's their option.
And I would say that it's pretty rare for a student to take an ACT once and that's it. They're almost always taking it 2, 3 times. 4. I think I still get grade for that for my son, so.
You can take it up to 12 times.
Well, we do have a motion to approve the ACT test funding without the writing. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Michelle Bocart. First of all, do we have any more questions or anything like that before? Okay. I have a motion by Michelle Bocart, second by Ashley Recevo, to approve the ACT test funding without the writing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed, 6-0. I need to seek a motion to close the meeting for the superintendent evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dale Buss, second by Dan Rudd, to close the meeting for the superintendent evaluation at 7:11
11.
p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is passed, 6-0.